You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Good Wife After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Good Wife After Show.
All right, that's all you get because I want to get started. Hello, AfterBuzzers. I am your host, Courtney Henderson. I am here with the lovely
Bobby DeMuro. Hey, guys.
And we are here to do another after show for The Good Wife. We are catching up from last week, which is good to go into right with the finale because it sets up for tonight so perfectly. So we're going to cover episodes 21 and 22. What Love Means, last week's, and A Weird Year, tonight's finale. I feel like I don't even know where to begin. There's so much to cover, and
well, let's
let's
get started with Paisley from last week, right?
Yes.
Because last week's episode is not quite as important as this week's, especially not as timely. But we do need to talk about it. And Paisley is a little funny because that dude cannot stop putting his foot in his mouth, and it's topical. We were just talking about this off camera. This is one thing The Good Wife does very well, and they're not the only show to do this, but it's a lot of topical things that actually happened in the real world, and then 6 weeks later they show up on The Good Wife. And this is one of those where he compares the plight of the 1% on his news interview to Anne Frank and being a Jew in Nazi Germany, and it's like it's the Godwin rule on the internet, which is like anytime whoever brings up Nazi Germany or Hitler or whatever in an argument loses the argument. Like you just can't
every
bring that up.
time.
Yeah,
no.
Totally inappropriate. And he doesn't understand it, so he puts his foot in his mouth twice. Right. And then Alicia puts her foot in her mouth inadvertently.
Right.
But does. And
right.
I love this. It's just another thing that The Good Wife does that I really like because it's at the start, you would look at this and say, well, The Good Wife, the writers must be pretty liberal because they're blasting the 1%, which are going to be more conservative Republicans. They're blasting people.
I would guess, I don't know, I haven't looked this up, but I would almost guess that the audience for the show is probably pretty conservative.
I would actually agree with you on that.
Middle America,
Well, but what I'm saying is they're blasting conservatives. Excuse me. Paisley has that whole Ayn Rand,
yes.
Read Ayn Rand, do all this sort of stuff, and Alicia lays him out about it. So the entire time they're really kind of not anti, but insulting conservatives and insulting the 1% and whatever. And then it turns around on Alicia, and Alicia goes in there, well-meaning herself, and gets confused the two news anchors who are both black and calls them the wrong names, and gets branded in some way as a racist. And it's not only blasting some of these 1%ers who kind of think off the top of their head and say stupid stuff, it's also blasting this overemphasis on political correctness and this perpetual offense that our nation seems to be in. If you look at a lot of either left-wing or right-wing media, everyone's offended about everything all the time.
Yes, I actually just very quickly, I heard this over this last weekend that we can't call it a firecracker anymore. We have to call it a fire white American.
Oh, God.
Right? Just to kind of play into that, like the whole everybody's offended by everything. You have to be so politically correct. You can't say anything
I think that's
without
just a really,
somebody pointing.
I think that's just a really bad joke.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's going to be somebody out there that probably really feels like that should be changed because it's the only thing the white man has, per se. Anyways, just to play into what you're saying, they're all out there, and a lot of them are, I think, ridiculous. When we're just getting so worried about the semantics of things that.
Well, and the whole show deals with
tomato.
that because not only do you have Paisley who puts his foot in his mouth and says something offensive. I think 99% of people are going to agree, like what the real world guy Perkins or whatever did. You can't compare the plight of a rich guy to Anne Frank and Nazi Germany. No, don't do that. So we agree it's offensive, but then the entire show is based on the political correctness and the offending nature of the words surrounding that offense. In other words, the entire jury selection, the voir dire, is about what he said and not the merits of the case, which is an interesting dynamic.
Absolutely.
And then Alicia's overreaction, a response the other way when she goes on camera for him and puts her foot in her mouth. So it's
of course, I feel like they kind of set her up to do that because she didn't have a monitor. She couldn't see who she's talking to. I don't know how true to life that is. I don't know when you go do those kinds of interviews if typically there is a monitor. I've only done and seen. That's kind of a common thing that could happen to somebody.
I've only done and seen several. I am certainly no expert. You cannot watch me on CNN. But from what I understand, most of the time there's not a monitor because it's just a camera set up with a green screen.
Just like we saw her. Okay.
So you're talking blind. And
so your best bet is not to use names.
Pretty much, unless you know somebody's voice like dead on. And she did not.
Clearly.
But it's also a commentary on maybe the news media that's becoming more sensationalist than fact finding. And if it weren't, fact finding news media should be dry. And if she says the wrong name, they should say, no, this is my name. Let's go to the next technical question. If it's a little sensationalist, they'll make something of her using the wrong name,
which
even if
they
it's an innocent mistake. Exactly.
Each time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's me.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're walking her into a trap because in news media, that's ratings. People will talk about it if it happened in the real world. So.
Yeah. Well, moving on, I wanted to get to the state's attorney in last week's episode, and we see that Eli tells Finn, okay, now we just got to wait for a response. Bring it to me, whatever it is, as soon as you get it. He doesn't get it. Castro goes to Peter with a photo of Finn and Alicia, which so many of you guys out there think that they're going to be romantically involved.
Yo,
and now
I'm going to put my hand up
out.
right now. Yep, I'm putting my hand up right now. I know people on YouTube have been commenting and they're on Team Bobby. Finn and Alicia are going to fall in love in season 6, but we'll talk about that later. But go on.
Yeah. Anyway, so, it's accused. Eli goes to Peter. Castro goes to Peter, shows him the photo, gives him the photo. Peter throws a drink in his face.
Which is a really girly thing to do. No offense. Not trying to be sexist. Culture of offense. We just talked about it. Don't get mad. No, but it's like,
get mad.
And I know that Governor Florrick's not going to punch the state's attorney because that would be so awesome and such a headline story. But it is a little wimpy. Let's not use the word girly because girls are tough. You could beat me up. But it's wimpy to throw a drink in the face. And he throws 2. He throws 1 and then he throws the other. It was awesome. It was a funny, non-violent way to diffuse that situation.
Right.
Get him it was awesome. But
and I agree, and I hate Castro. I think he's just slimy.
He is.
And so, even if it's Peter and even if it's girly, I'm still happy because either way, the result is Castro has drinks in his face.
Think about this. The people on this show with the least amount of hair are the slimier characters. Castro and a balding David Lee. Yeah, think about that.
I don't want to.
Okay.
Anyways. I don't want to think about either of them for too long. I know you love David Lee. But
I do love David Lee.
So then we sort of, I think it's related to this. We have the intern. That Peter's now thinking whatever he's thinking about Alicia and Finn. I don't know if he thinks it's true or not. I think he definitely is questioning it enough to, want to postpone any further association or endorsement of Finn because he already endorsed him, which I'm glad that Eli reminds him, you already endorsed him. This is just sort of the formality of being seen together, and Peter holds off. And so I like that they sort of gave us the intern. I didn't think anything was going to come of it. We didn't get to have predictions from last week. But I just sort of thought that was kind of like
two questions.
I don't want to say cheap shot, but it was just sort of like, of course they're going to give, of course they're going to have that. Of course they're going to make it look like Peter's going to cheat or not cheat, but, fool around with a young pretty intern.
Well, look, 3 questions, three comments. First off, of course the intern has a blog because what 25-year-old girl nowadays doesn't have a blog besides you?
I'm not 25.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
You're like 21, but I know what you're saying.
I have a blog.
Second question. Did you wear the red lipstick because that intern wore red lipstick?
No,
Is this in honor of that?
It isn't. It actually isn't.
Sure. Well, it's
I wore
enough.
red lipstick because I had an event to go to earlier, and I like to wear red lipstick because it makes my teeth look white.
Okay. And third question, Chris Noth acting in this role, just in general, the last 5 seasons, how much do you think he just looked at what Bill Clinton does? He's like, if Clinton would do it, I'm going to do it on the show. Because when Eli walked in there and the intern was standing there and Noth was sitting backwards on the chair was sitting on the desk. That's such a I feel like it was like a Bill Clinton thing. They're like, what would Bill Clinton do if there was an intern in the office? Let's have some fun
or it was
with this.
let's go find who caught Bill and Monica standing in his office and how were they positioned that first time before anybody knew anything.
Just whatever he said, I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something like, hey, she's got a blog. She wants to interview me. Sounds great. And Eli's like, no, no, we're not doing it.
And I loved Eli when he's like, take a step back. She's like, what? He's like, take a step back. You are now 50 feet away. And just like lay down the law.
That's what Eli does.
Clearly, other things had been said or flirted or whatever because she goes and tattles instantly to Peter. Or maybe Peter, I don't know why I think about this kind of stuff, but I'm like, maybe Peter went to her and she was like, well, I'm not allowed to talk to you.
Maybe Peter sent her a direct message on Twitter. Just like, what was it, Anthony Weiner? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Don't become a politician, Bobby. I like you.
Okay, I won't.
Anyway, so... the intern disappears. We have no idea what's going on with her. Maybe she'll be back in season 6. I don't really care. I don't think she will. Far more important things than her to discuss. And let's see, where should we go?
Well, let's go to the partnerships because the partnerships, the mergers, everything that's going on in Floric Agos and Lockhart Gardner are covered both in 21 and 22. So it's a good way to kind of get both.
Yes.
Who do you want to start with? Lockhart Gardner? Yeah. That's interesting to me.
I absolutely like our Gardner.
So let's look at Diane, because Diane at the top of the heap, losing leverage, power, and maybe more importantly, confidence with Will's absence. Since Will's been dead, I think emotionally what Canning and David Lee are trying to insinuate that she's not emotionally right, I think they're wrong. They're just looking for an excuse to dump her. I think she's emotionally okay.
And I don't think that people are not confident in her until they poison the mind, you know what I mean? Because we saw that with Raina Hecht.
Yeah.
Which we know from earlier in the season considered mergers with them before because she was looking for a home and ended up going with Tassioni, who we know is probably the furthest thing from the way that Raina operates, and clearly that's not working out with them.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where I sort of feel bad for her because it's like, this is sort of all out of her control, even though she's the one with all the power or, with all the control or decision making, whatever word you want to use, all of those words may be power control. But it's like, what is she supposed to do on her own, And we see in the finale, there's a lot of options for her. And I don't know that any of them look that great, really, except, of course, what she ends up coming up to and deciding, which wasn't even one of the options altogether. But, we've seen this whole, since Will's death, we've seen Canning, moving in, David Lee moving in, and then now Canning. And I still can't decide why they're trying to make Canning the partner and not David Lee, unless it's just one of those things where David knows Canning's dying, and so as soon as Canning's gone, he'll get his turn. And it's easier to just let Canning have a year than fight him now. I don't really know where that is coming from.
And this is going to go in predictions, so we shouldn't talk about it. But I really think that this is what ends up happening, because looking at those two work, both David Lee and Canning are cunning. Little word pun there. Yeah. Canning is cunning. But they're both cunning, and they're both kind of cheats in a way. And it's the honor of criminals, man. They will turn on each other as fast as they turn on Alicia. So it's like hyenas or something, or piranhas. They're like they're ganging up on Alicia, or on
Diane.
Not Alicia, Diane.
I knew he meant Diane.
They're ganging up on Diane. They'll take her down theoretically, whatever happens, and then they will turn on each other and they'll start to manipulate partners against each other, and something will happen. And at the end of the day, what happens? Howard Lyman becomes managing partner. No, I'm just kidding. That won't happen.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I mean, his deposition questioning was something else.
Was phenomenal. Although, let's talk Howard Lyman, because it actually involves Diane specifically.
Yes.
When the live stream feed gets left open, accidentally by Lockhart Gardner at their place, we get to see Canning and David Lee work. And we don't always get to see them work. They kind of move in silence, and then we see the repercussions.
I mean, we see that they are working. We see the confrontations with Kalinda or Diane or whoever.
We see it from Kalinda or Diane's perspective.
Right.
Yes.
We've never gotten the inside scoop, which I think, again, with these writers, it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't know I needed to see that until I saw it. And then it's like, how did I ever not have this?
And it's kind of funny how much of a doofus they portray Howard Lyman to be. I think it almost cheapens it a little bit, and it definitely makes it funny. And part of this show is that it's a little irreverent and funny, even in serious points. But I wish that Howard Lyman had been a little bit more serious and well-meaning and ignorant to the to what's the word I'm looking for? Ignorant to maybe the significance of what Canning and David Lee are trying to do, as opposed to just kind of being happy-go-lucky, like, I want a better office, you know, I want to cross-examine. I wish he had just been a little, maybe not as dumb. You know, he was like, I've been practicing law for 55 years, but he turns around and he's awful at questioning somebody in a deposition.
Well, he's never done it.
I know, but if you were practicing for 55 years, you'd be a little bit better.
Well, here's the thing with Howard Lyman. I don't think he's really been practicing. I think he's
hanging out
money.
as a...
You know, they needed somebody to buy in, and he was there, and I think he's sort of been about as close to a silent partner as you can have with somebody that still, for whatever reason, shows up, because... Oh, they're gonna rack my brain. I can't remember exactly when, if it was early this season or if it was last season, but when Lockhart Gardner was in trouble and was looking to, you know, bring in Alicia and Cary and a couple of the other fourth years because they needed money, they went to Howard and another guy, and I believe the other guy passed away before he could, you know. Yeah. So it's one of those where it's like Howard's kind of been on the outs and sort of like half retired or maybe all the way retired, other than having deep pockets from practicing for however many years.
Yeah.
But I kind of know what you mean. I wish that, you know, it's happy-go-lucky, you know, I wish he wouldn't have gotten kind of as violent or aggressive might be a better word. You know, he was a little bit pushy, aggressive with Alicia when she was kind of like correcting him on things.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And,
yeah.
And it was just sort of, that to me seemed more out of character for him than anything else. And of course we all wish he was... I was hoping, of course, to see him just come like rocket. You know what I mean? Just like knock it out of the park and like in your face, David Lee.
I think the aggression there was a specific point to the aggression to show that he was bad at depositions, which we knew he was going to be,
right.
But not that he was bumbling idiot bad. It was that he couldn't gain the trust of a witness bad. And so to do a deposition like that, you've got to be very
I see what you're saying.
comfortable and confident with
Approachable,
Alicia.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he just kind of bowled over her immediately.
Right.
As opposed
I'm the
to being,
lawyer, I'm smart and you're dumb kind of a mentality.
He should have been...
It just so happened that Alicia's also a lawyer and is...
Yeah.
a better one.
And to gain her trust, when you say Indian counsel and she corrects you and say, no, it's actually tribal counsel,
yeah.
If you wanted to gain her trust and then potentially gain information out of her, you'd play good cop and you'd say, you're right, ma'am, I'm sorry, it's tribal counsel. You'd be more deferential.
And there's another one, P.S.
And he bowled over her.
Indian, tribal. The wording, politics.
Oh, political correctness.
Correct,
absolutely,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And anyway, just like, it was like one more, you know, it could have been any case, it could have been any adoption, and that's the way that The Good Wife chose to write it. And that's the case that The Good Wife chose to bring back, because we know this deposition is all happening because of a case when Alicia was a lawyer at Lockhart Gardner before the merger. We've seen a little bit of issue with it in the past. You know, we forgot about it, or I forgot about it, you know, then they bring it back. Oh yeah, because David Lee was the first chair, Alicia was second chair, but she was the one doing the day-to-day because, of course, they don't want all of the managing partner hours for the billable hours, and, you know, it costs the client a lot more and clients get mad. And so anyway, Alicia did all the work, and, you know, David comes in and does his backdoor deal with that whole cunning sly thing like we're talking about with him and Canning, you know, and doesn't even tell Alicia. So now it's basically looks like Alicia, because they got the associate to say Alicia was the one that asked him to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, but, you know, but that's what, of course, you know, the writers find a way to bring it all back to all of them having to work together and or not necessarily work together, but they're all intertwined, and, you know, they're all having to deal with the same situation or case. And I like how that they intertwine them even more with the whole Skype or, you know, conference chat thing,
yeah,
which we see. And I love, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. Lane.
Clark.
Clark. Thank you. I loved him in this episode. I mean, I love his character. It's one of those where it's like, you can't hate him like you kind of want to, because he's like that voice of reason that you always just kind of want to be like, no, just be quiet, you know? But at the same time, like, you like that somebody's like really standing up for, you know, the law, and he's like, he's a letter of the law kind of a guy. And I love that he was just like, so no, I don't care what anybody says. Like, this is what I believe. This is what we should be doing. And you kind of see a little bit, because of where it all transpires, to where when Cary goes to Canning, it's like, oh, maybe we should have been watching this, because this, you know, this can do things to us and make us act away. And the same thing with Cary and Kalinda. Yeah. You know, it's one of those where it's like, okay, you know, being a fly on the wall may not be that glamorous or good after all. Yeah,
the grass is greener on the other side until you actually do it.
Right. You know, and it's one of those where it's like, What would you have done?
If I were who? Cary?
If you had been in that room and you had the option to turn it off or leave it on.
I would have left it on
Heck
for sure.
yeah.
When Clark gets in the argument with the other young lawyer,
Yeah.
not Cary, the other guy, and it's such a dichotomy of not necessarily old versus young, but just two thoughts.
I think a little bit though.
Maybe,
I mean,
but just two different thoughts of these guys, and Clark definitely pulls out the same perspective that he had because he mentions it. Remember when the NSA was tapping us and how offended we were? So Clark's like, no, we got to take this off, and he looks up the rules. The young lawyer's like, nah, that was in '92. Here are the new rules. We don't have to turn it off.
And then Cary
does
well,
this thing. I would have kept it on. Absolutely, I would have kept it on, and then just deny. If you have, here's the thing about anything legal.
And this is why you're not a lawyer. I'm just going to preface.
No, here's the thing: plausible deniability. Okay, the two most important words you'll ever learn in life, kids. Plausible deniability. Whatever you do, if you can plausibly deny it later, hey, you're cool.
Oh my gosh.
If there's no way for Floracagos to get caught, if there's plausible deniability, they're watching. Go for it.
Somebody can probably track that somewhere.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Then it's not plausible deniability. If it's plausible deniability, you're clean.
So you're saying you can't do it and deny it unless
people
would believe that you would deny it?
Only do it if you can legitimately deny it and it doesn't come back to you. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
Not like not murder. I'm just talking about things like this.
Oh man.
Yeah, life lessons with Bobby. That's lesson number 1.
Hopefully not. No more lessons from you.
Fine. All right. Hey, speaking of weird stuff and weird quasi-criminal activities, what about that Kalinda Cary sex scene? That was a little uncomfortable.
So I like the way that it was shot. I like the under the sheets. I like the way that they flip her. I like the way that it was shot. But it's one of those where it's like, it really makes me not like Kalinda. Not as a whole person, as a character, but just for that. Because I like Cary. I always have liked Cary. I know other people don't like him from conversations that I've had with people about it. But I like him. And I kind of do think he might be a little bit the new Will, until he says it. And it's like, you can't say it. Or, it's like, you can't self-proclaim yourself.
It's like giving yourself a nickname.
Yeah, you can't give yourself a nickname.
No, to me, it wasn't even a Kalinda thing because this is what Kalinda does, and we know she's an investigator, and we know she's a mole.
Cary should know better.
Well,
he should, but at the same time, it's one of those where it's like you always want to believe you're the one that's different. Not that you're going to change somebody, but you're going to be the one that they want to change for.
I guess I was going to say I like this for Cary only because I like the entire sequence for Cary because he stands up to Alicia and has a shouting match with her. He clearly doesn't want the partnership. He really struggles with the fact that Kalinda is going to try to take advantage of him and get information out of him. And this is Cary growing up, because Alicia is the focus of this law firm. Clark is more experienced than Cary, even if we don't see him as much and whatever.
But see, he's not. I mean, he became a lawyer only within the last year.
Yeah, well,
Cary's been a lawyer longer.
But I'm just talking about the look test. Cary looks like a 22-year-old.
Oh, well, yeah.
So and I know Cary's legit as a lawyer, I'm sure, but I'm just saying that this is Cary growing up and saying, hey, I'm going to get in there and I have to, whether it's play dirty or play tough or whatever you want to call it, Cary's like, this is real now and I have to assert myself. And he did it with Kalinda, even though part of it was a little uncomfortable in that sex scene. He did it with Alicia. He did it at that meeting with Diane. And this is Cary standing up for himself.
And even Canning.
Yes.
Because Canning's like, well, how do you know that?
Yeah, that's
and he was just like, I don't want this and you don't want this. Like, that's the point. We don't need to go into logistics. We don't need to go into details. I don't want this. I know you don't want it. So make it go away.
And Canning even actually proved my point about Cary because when Cary came up to him on the pier, Canning said, I don't deal with you a lot. Implying Canning, we're always talking about how Canning's like running the show and dealing with the bigwigs. He never deals with Cary because Cary's not a bigwig.
Right.
But all of a sudden today, he deals with Cary. Cary steps up a little bit and asserts himself into this situation and doesn't just go along with Alicia and, hey, this partnership's great. We've got a startup with no doors on the walls. Cary's like, no, this is not going to happen.
Do you think that Cary thought about the fact that that would come up on the monitor?
Oh, yeah.
You think he knew that he would do that and they would find out and,
Yeah.
Okay.
Although here's my question about that coming up on the monitor because I wrote it down here in all capitals. Why are they always scheming in the conference room? I understand the first scheme because they were already there when they accidentally left the monitor on. I understand the second because Alicia forced them to stay in the conference room to ask the question.
And I loved that. I loved that
great.
because Canning gave her the out. It was written, she didn't know what she was going to say.
Yeah.
And, you know, then they go to the shot of Will's doors, or now Canning's office. And I actually like to, and this is the thing that kills me about Canning, is I think he can be a good guy. Like, he understands like humanity, and so it's just one of those, because he's like, you know, like, I didn't want to see it sitting empty. And I know that that's not part of it. Like, I know that that's like a bold-faced lie. Or maybe he truly didn't want clients to see that it was empty, you know, and it wasn't just like, well, I'm going to take the managing partner's office because then I have more power. But he was sensitive to her about it and wasn't, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm mumbling a little bit.
No, I think the difference is because the difference here is Canning and David Lee. Both of them are cunning and scheming and conniving and kind of, you know, mischiefy and squirrely.
Totally.
To David Lee, it's life and death, this is war. To Canning, it's war, but it's also kind of a game, and there are more important things in life. So the Will thing about Will's office to Canning is like, hey, that's not war, that's disrespectful, let's stay out of the office. Yeah. And then he still wants to play the game of doing all the partner stuff. But to Canning, I think he's one of those people where it's all kind of one game, and this is a lot of fun, and I'm going to win the game. But at the end of the day, it's not life and death. You know, there are more, and some versus somebody like David Lee, who is, you know, almost literally out for blood.
Totally. I kind of feel that way about David Lee, which is why I don't like it, because he doesn't have that other side that Canning has.
I like David Lee. He's just like me. I'm out for blood. I'm trying to get to be top host on The Good Wife. Season 6, it's going to happen.
Did you just say top host?
Top host, whatever.
We're co-hosts.
Yeah, you know, but me and David Lee...
Learn your place, Bobby.
Me and David Lee don't see it that way. Hey, listen, I've got the votes.
Are you saying I'm the Diane of the Good Wife after show?
I'm just saying I've got the votes. That's all I'm saying.
It's a 1 against 1.
Our engineer, Roya, she's voting with me.
No, she's not.
2-1.
Womanhood. We're Alicia and Diane over here.
Darn it.
I vote for myself.
Oh,
that's
it's a 3-way tie.
1 to 1 is going to screw things up. All right, fine. We'll bring in somebody else.
All right. Okay, well, I still want to talk a little bit more about Cary and Alicia and what's going on with them, because, like you said, it's one of those things where Alicia is trying to do, I think, what she thinks is best, and so is Cary. And I think that they have valid reasons. Do you think that it was unreasonable for her to sort of be as upset as she was about him going to, you know, the enemy per se, and getting, like, basically Cary made sure that the merger didn't happen, that it just, like, was kind of off the table. Do you think that that was okay, or you know, I mean,
I don't think it was okay. I think it was necessary for Cary to stand up and assert himself, and he wasn't just looking out for himself about the merger. I know he said his name wasn't going to be on the plate, and that would have been important to him, but he's also looking out for all the employees, because he said to one of the other lawyers, he's like, they're going to lay off 50% of our staff or something.
Well,
so that's a big deal.
And I do think, like the scene in the parking lot, because they say, you know, we should get some walls around here and doors and all that, you know, and it's like, oh, like at Lockhart Gardner, you know, and it's like, oh, and to me, that's again the writing where it's like, man, like I feel it's like one of those where it's like they knew that they wanted to set this up for the end, so they had to make sure that not only the office was set up more like this open, free love space, but that it was commented on. Because this isn't the first episode that's been an issue. This is the second or third time that I can recall just now that the way that the office's design has been an issue for the way that they operate. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, oh man, look at those lawyers, you know. So it's like, now with Diane wanting to come on board, is that one of those things where she's going to move in there? Are they going to get new office space altogether? Is her name going to go on the door? You know, all of the stuff. And I'm glad that Cary's standing up for himself. And I actually do think that not merging is the better option. And I think Alicia's just scared, you know, and I love that he called her out about, you're not tired about work. Like all of this is not about work. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's one of those where it's like, and she brings it back to Will. He didn't bring it back to Will. She did. Yeah. You know, so it's like, is there something more? Is there sort of this like, is it everybody, you're just assuming everybody's worried about that and about Will and that they're reacting to you thinking that that's still a sensitive thing? Or is that your defense coming out because that is what's going on and you are still mourning and dealing, which, I mean, how could she not be? You know what I mean? I feel like even Diane, it's one of those things where in the span of time, this still isn't that long after, you know? Mm-hmm. Even if I don't think it is, but even if it's 6 months later, that's still not very long. You know what I mean? Like, you're still going to have those really bad days. Yes, you're still going to be able to function, and you're going to be able to make decisions, and you're going to have a lot of time that you can be a very reasonable, functioning person, very productive and level-headed and back to your, yourself. But there's still going to be those moments that isn't the case. Yeah. Probably forever. It'll just, be fewer and far between as time goes on.
It'll be fewer and far between as she falls in love with Finn and makes a new life.
No. But we did find out that Finn and his wife are divorced.
That's true. After a miscarriage, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that came out in sort of like the vetting dirt on Finn kind of a thing.
I told you, Finn is not as married as we thought. And sure enough, he's not married at all.
Doesn't mean he's going to be with Alicia.
But, okay, so Alicia, now, the other question I have to ask, because it brings up Alicia, it brings up Diane, it brings up Finn, and it brings up Castro, is this state's attorney issue.
Dun, dun, dun.
So let's leave Alicia for last on this. But, first off, Diane, up for Supreme Court, didn't happen last year, or whatever we're told a couple years ago last time.
Well, she actually tried to leave Lockhart Gardner to do it, and then at the last minute, it was political.
Yeah.
Completely.
Didn't happen.
They pulled her out.
And now she gets called again. She comes in. She says, ooh, this could be my chance. And they offer state's attorney. Could you just see the disappointment on her face? She's like, you got to be kidding. I'm not taking this.
Yes. Well, but I think it was one of those things where I think it was smart of the writers, and I think it was smart of Diane to consider it with everything else going on because, especially because, after she went and met with Peter is when he came to her with like the nuclear bomb or however he worded it, I forget, but with the
nuclear option.
Thank you.
You're talking about Cannon?
Yes, when he came in and was like, basically, we're just going to dissolve the firm.
Yeah, with cause.
Yeah. But that if I don't have the votes to become a managing partner, then I'm going to do that to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to basically make your firm disappear. Which, again, it's like, I don't understand what that has to do with Canning. Like, dying or not. What does he have to do? Or do you think it's, again, like the whole Cary thing where he thinks that actually in order for this firm to function and do well and succeed and keep everybody in their jobs, she has to be out.
Well, Canning said during the thing, he said, my work is my life, so this is his focus. And it's a game to him, but it's a game.
And she said, well, something about a strong firm. And he said, well, that's what I'm trying to do, It's basically, do you think he really believes, like, if she keeps running it, that it will dissolve itself?
That's the thing. He doesn't believe that. He thinks deep down, I think he thinks in his heart that it'll be good enough if she keeps running it, but he's not. He plays the game, man. He wants to run it. He just wants to be the leader. I don't think there's anything nefarious like he thinks she's stupid or incompetent or he doesn't want to work under a woman. I don't think there's any of that going on.
No, I don't either. But that's why it's like, well, then what are you doing?
Because
like, what do you care?
It's just as simple as he is a climber and he wants to play the game. It's the business world, the law world, or whatever. To him, it's a zero-sum game. And if you're not winning, you're losing. And he needs to win. And if he can't win, he wants everybody to lose by dissolving the partnership. Well, that's Canning.
Ugh. I don't like him.
That's Michael J. Fox in real life, too. No, he's supposedly a very nice person.
Supposedly, no.
Supposedly, we don't know.
I'm sure he is.
No, but yeah, don't tell me Marty McFly is not a mean guy. No, but that's Canning, and I think Canning just really, really simply wants to win. And whatever it takes for him to win, if it pushes Diane out, if it dissolves the firm, he'll win that round. And then if something comes up with David Lee, he's only going to be David Lee's friend until he's his enemy. He's going to use David Lee until he can't use
So who do you
David
think
Lee.
wins that?
Oh, Canning.
Okay, me too.
I think Canning is more connected, more shrewd, and David Lee would just kind of bully people and try to push them over and stuff. But Canning, I think, has the long play in all this. Because, in case in point, Diane and Will, when they were running the firm and David Lee was there was not nearly as much friction until A, Will died, and B, Canning came on. So David Lee couldn't create as much friction on his own.
No.
So this is Canning driving the bus.
Totally. Well, and so maybe that's why David Lee's just like jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like, I know I will never be the top.
Oh no,
but I'm going to get as close.
I think he thinks he's going to be the top. I think he also thinks that when Diane goes, he can outwit Canning, but he can't.
No, I don't. I agree. I don't think that David Lee will ever be a managing partner.
No way.
Definitely not like solo.
No,
you know what I mean.
And not
definitely,
with Canning.
But
absolutely not. No.
Canning wants to be the new Diane.
So
solo on top, one name on the door.
So let's talk about this Diane bringing her $38 million in annual billing to Floric Agos. Do you think it happens?
Oh, I do, actually. I do. I think that she comes in house. I think that she... I don't think... I think she becomes a partner, but I think that Cary will lay down the law and put his foot down and make sure that he has as much, if not more of a say. So, you don't think so?
No, I almost want to go to predictions already because I have like the greatest prediction ever for this.
Well, let's see. Is there anything else we need to kind of discuss before we go to predictions? I think maybe we can go to predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV.
I don't even want to hear this, do I? Whenever you get cocky, I don't like it.
Wow.
Whatever comes after.
All right. I've got a short-term prediction and I've got a long.
Do they contradict each other?
No, that's
Okay.
why they're good predictions.
Okay.
Calm down, Coco.
Let's hear it.
Okay, short-term, Diane joins Floricagos.
All right.
I think.
Does her name go on the door?
Yes. Oh, yeah, of
Okay.
course. But here's the kicker, and here's the long-term position, okay?
So that was the entire short-term one.
That was the
Okay.
short-term one. She joins at some point in season 6, if not
Yeah.
to start, whatever. The long-term prediction, and it's so simple, it's cool. Okay, so Diane joins Floricagos. Well, do we put, Lockhart, Floricagos, what do we call it? You call it Lockhart Agos because Alicia Florrick runs for state's attorney and wins. After her husband's terms are up as governor, Alicia Florrick pulls a Hillary Clinton just like her husband pulls a Bill Clinton, and Alicia becomes governor of Illinois down the road. How is that for a crazy long-term prediction?
You kind of just blew my mind.
I mean,
because she
seriously.
has actually talked about not wanting to be a lawyer.
Bam.
It would get her out from underneath. Oh my gosh.
Think about that.
Robert and
Think
Michelle
about
King,
that.
if you are watching this,
Oh,
let
they've
us know.
already written it. It doesn't matter. So basically, Diane, to recap, folks, Diane goes to Floricagos. She brings her thing. It's all hunky-dory at Floricagos.
Yeah.
Canning and David Lee are left to like fight with the scraps and whatever. They can have Chum Hum. We don't need them anymore. We got
Whatever.
Diane.
No. They're not going to get Chum Hum. Chum Hum is
But-
like 36 million. So
No, I know. But my point is, Diane comes to Floricagos. In it for a while, it's Lockhart, Floricagos, whatever you want to do.
Which it would be smart for them to do that because it takes Chum Hum. They said 75% of their income
And if they bring Diane,
is from Chum Hum. It will significantly drop
Yeah.
that and make losing Chum Hum still a dent, of course, but not a detrimental like life or death sink or swim.
Diversify. And then down the road, whether it's a season from now or 2 or whatever, who knows? Who knows how much longer this goes? But at some point, Peter Florrick's terms in the governor's office are going to come up. You can't be a governor indefinitely. Alicia is going to run for state's attorney, obviously win because we hate Castro, and then she's going to turn around down the road and like Hillary Clinton from Secretary of State, who theoretically may run for president.
I just have to say,
Bam.
People are probably going to hate me for this. I don't like you comparing the Florricks to the Clintons.
There's a lot to compare them.
I know, and I don't
There's a
like.
lot to
As you keep comparing them, I'm seeing all of the parallels, and you're right, and I don't like it though. I don't have to like it.
No, you don't have to like it.
I mean, because you're spot on, and I'm hating it.
Are you admitting that I'm right for a change?
No, I'm admitting that you're right for once,
That's what I'm saying.
not for a change.
Wow.
I'm not saying it's going to change and you're always going to be right. I'm saying for this once, you are right. There are parallels very blatantly in front of me that I have been choosing to ignore.
Took me all season, but she finally admitted I was right about something. All right, hey, beat my prediction.
I can't. I don't think I can.
Yes!
But the only thing I will say is in that prediction, there was absolutely nothing about Finn and Alicia being together. You can't amend your prediction.
No, Finn will be the first husband. He will join Lockhart Agos, and it will be Lockhart Polmar Agos, or whatever you want to call it. Agos Polmar Lockhart.
Well, if
whatever.
he's the first man, then it'll be Florrick because he's going to take her name.
Absolutely not. No. And they will have
just messing
they will
with
have
you.
the most powerful law firm and the governorship with Alicia. Alicia and Finn will have a baby. No, I'm just kidding. That's
No.
going way too far. But okay, you're right. There will be love between Alicia and
I don't
Finn,
think
and
so.
then that down the road
I
prediction.
don't think so.
I'm just saying.
So, final last thing.
Okay.
We have to just briefly talk about how Zach left. I know we're past predictions, but Zach leaves. We see the two moms sort of get along, and then, of course, the moms find out about Peter and Alicia's sort of arrangement. Alicia's mom's totally for it. Peter's mom, not so much.
Oh, of course.
Do you think when she says she wants to sit down and talk to him, she's going to tell him to get divorced, or do you think she's going to tell him ship shape up and make it work?
I think she's kind of a diversion. I think whatever she tells them, they're gonna, sorry, we're not gonna do what you say.
Do you think they'll get divorced in season 6?
No.
I don't either. I think they will fall back in love, like I said before.
They won't fall back in love. But
That's
they
what
won't
I think.
Get
I know
divorced.
you think she'll be with Finn, and they can't be a power couple if she's still married to Peter.
Well,
and you saw them sort of like getting along when they were like kind of talking about the moms, and they worked together, and they sent Eli over. Anyway,
you're throwing a monkey wrench in my prediction. I'm sticking by the Alicia is state's attorney, and down the road Alicia is governor. I'm sticking by that prediction.
You can stick to that.
It's gonna happen.
But until we have season 6, thank you so much for joining us. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Cohen, Couhen.
I'm on Twitter at Bobby DeMuro. I'm also on Instagram. High five.
Woo!
I just got an Instagram at Mr. Bobby DeMuro because I couldn't. Bobby DeMuro was taken.
That's
Somebody
all
else
right,
has my name.
Mr. Bobby DeMuro.
Whatever. Tweet me, Instagram us. Who cares?
Right.
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
We will see you next season.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.